Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, welcome to Batman Black and White. Today we are going to spotlight Jorge Zaffino. This is a good one. The art's cool. It's interesting. It's kind of minimalistic for him. I almost get a tiny bit of a Toth vibe from it, but it's very very cool and it's great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at The Devil's Children, which is a story written by Chuck Dixon and illustrated by Jorge Savino and lettered by John Costanza. And we'll go over his bio, and then we're going to look at a really, really interesting pinup by Jim Steranko. So, all right, let's do his bio first. Born in Argentina, Jorge Zaffino has been drawing comics since the age of 16. He's actually passed away now, so this book was printed, I think, about 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. His work for South American, European, and North American comics is widely hailed for its brutal richness and striking draftsmanship. Zaffino's work on the 1987 series Winterworld is widely considered some of the most impressive comics work of the past decade. And we've got Chuck Dixon, but we're just focusing on the artist, different approaches to Batman, and again, there's 4 volumes. This book we've only been going through the first volume, and it's absolutely insane how much great talent is just in this first collection. And there's 4 more of these books. But I was flipping through this morning. There's still so much kick-ass stuff in this. Next video, I'm going to do Bruce Timm. And then Matt Wagner's got a great story in here. Anyway, so opening shot is Batman, and he seems to be talking maybe to Commissioner Gordon, and he's thanking him for giving him an hour alone in a room where a crime has just taken place. There's 2 people dead and a third has been shot. They're all mobsters, like mafia guys, and so it was an execution. Someone came in and shot these guys up, and again, 2 dead, 1 wounded, and Batman's on the scene. All right. Then, in a interrogation room at the hospital, or probably just in the hospital room, they've got the guy that was injured, and his name is Victor Dean, and he's just a cement contractor. The dude's not in the mafia. It's construction. We all know. Some of us more than others. Right, James? You know what I'm talking about. You can't smoke in the hospital, Mr. Dean. Who's going to know, detective? Well, they start to go over the crime, and he basically describes the guy as a tall guy with a bad toupee and a limp. And, this guy basically, the detective isn't buying his shit, and he's like, who'd you piss off? And he's, sticking to his story that he's in the concrete business. And then the 2 detectives are actually, I think they probably walk out of the room, and they're talking to each other. And the woman says, he gave us a pretty good description. He goes, it stinks. And she's like, the description? And he's like, no, the fact that he gave us a description. So he knows his bullshit. Anyway, now Gordon is chatting it up with Batman, and he's telling Batman, hey, you know what? I got partial fingerprints off of one of the shells, and does he mention the hand? And the prints match someone named Paul Barbosa, who's a hitman for another gang up in a different sector. Beautiful drawings on this. I don't want to gloss over the excellent draftsmanship and illustration style of Zaffino. This is actually very reserved for him, I think, in some ways, but it's great. This Batman is super intense, and I like his very stoic nature in all these shots. This is a beautiful panel right here. I love the indication of the buildings in the background, and I mean, look at Gordon's face. It's just a suggestion, but it really, really works effectively, and this is great. And again, look at the line work here. People will ask me sometimes about inking, and I think the assumption is that there's like kind of one approach, or I don't think that people think that as much now. But look at how for lack of a better term, crude these lines are. There's thick lines over here. There's thin, wobbly lines over here. But the reality is this panel looks great, and then it doesn't matter. My eye doesn't get stuck on anything that I don't want it to be stuck on when I look at the panel. It's the same with this. So I always tell people, look, do what you want to do, as long as the finished drawing has some sort of appeal, and that appeal can be so broad reaching. It can be so many different things. it's a good drawing. That's it. So it doesn't matter if you know anatomy or whatever. If it looks cool, it looks cool. You could have muscles in the wrong place. A face could be crooked, but you better be the crooked face, badass artist, Whatever you want to do can work, but it has to look confident, it has to look consistent, and it has to tell the story. So anyway, the prints on the cartridge it's a left thumb partial, and Barbossa was right-handed. So this is a big red flag for Batman. He'd have loaded his gun with his right hand, not his left. So that's suspicious. And there was also traces of vegetable or seed oil on his hand, which Batman found unusual. And then he goes on to say, there's been 6 hits in 6 weeks. Each time the hitman was identified by prints or an eyewitness. 3 of the eyewitnesses happen to be the guy that they are interrogating right now, which is Victor Dean. And, things are not looking good for Victor Dean, but they need to figure out, they need some, direct correlation between Dean and these crimes. It can't just be speculative. This is a great panel. Got some really, really interesting effects here. This all looks great. The Batmobile is very cool. It's very, very solid drawing. That is, just really looking cool. And again, those rough inks. But he's able to control the value so well, meaning the level of jet black and gray and white, that it directs the eye just where you want to see. This is interesting use of Zipatone in these 2 panels, which there's a little tiny bit right here too, you can see, and a little on this, and there may be more on it that I'm not spotting just in the video. Oh, and these pictures. And then we've got a really, really beautiful shot of Batman looking down on a building, and just the suggestion of the buildings in the background is really, really great. This is really, really cool too. Look at this silhouette of this really interesting shaped building. But it was a very, very intelligent move on his part. He was able to do a building that structurally could be a little bit complicated to pull off, but because he put so much black on it, you get all the value of a cool looking building without the torture of having to do maybe all the tiles or work out little details in here that could be very complicated and also time consuming. So he's a very intelligent comic book artist, and he moves you through the story in a very, very effective way. And a little bit of zip here, and this is just cool. It's a really, really nice big shot, and it's very well designed. The white looks beautiful on it. And then Batman starts to leap into action. He's ready to go. And again, look like fire escape. Really simply done, but well done. The suggestion of all these little windows and stuff. Bricks, So Batman starts to swing into action, and he's basically going into Dean's hangout in Lintown, and he owns this place through a holding company. So it's not publicly known that he owns this place, but Batman traced it through paper trails and blood trails, and his guess is that it's all going to come together here. And here he comes. He's going through the window again. This is Batman's MO. If I'm a criminal, I'm going into a room with no windows. So he's in the building. He didn't actually show him crashing through the window, which is interesting. But anyway, it goes to here. We know he got in. That's all that matters. Maybe he was just swinging across and didn't actually go through window. Nice use of black and white. And it's very, very cool. And he then starts to talk to himself. He's like, the left hand, right hand can be explained. The salad oil, ? So Barbossa ate before the hit. I don't think Batman believes any of this. I think he's already kind of figured out what's going on, and I kind of had at this point too. But one thing doesn't add up. One thing about the print says Barbossa's not the man. And as Batman is investigating, a couple of, I think these are like the criminals, like come in. And just one little detail about those prints. And what is going on here? Oh, okay. I guess I can't really tell what Batman's doing that knocked this guy out of the panel. Maybe a headbutt. He might have headbutted him. It might have gone from this to him leaping forward with a headbutt. A thing that would have really helped this be a little more clear is if Batman was lunging a bit more. If he was, there's a gun here pointed on Batman. I'm not 100% sure what this stuff is behind him. Can't really tell what that is. Yeah, I don't know what this object is behind him, but if Batman was lunging forward a little bit more, his neck was bowed out, maybe his head was at a different position or his eye was a little squinted, I think that we would have been able to more clearly tell that this guy had been... I'm just guessing it's a headbutt based on this. I'm not sure. And then he grabs the gun from the other guy and sort of probably breaks his wrist and kind of throws him the thing. And then he chucks this guy across the storeroom. And as he crashes into the box, these frozen hands spill out over the floor. They look a little like sort of wobbly gloves here, but the style sort of makes it okay. I think that they could have been maybe a little tiny bit more sort of refined to look like hands. It's just I don't know, like it's you get it though. The storytelling's fine. Or frozen. And so what this guy's been doing, and there's a little joke here about gotta hand it to you. This is a great little drawing right here. Is he had been cutting the hands off of, like, he'd been murdering hitmen and cutting their hands off and keeping them frozen. And then what he would do is he would defrost them. They would be dehydrated. So what they said is that the fingerprints were matching, but they were a little tiny bit smaller, meaning the hands had dehydrated. And so he would kind of rehydrate them a little bit with the oil. And so he was marking the bullets. And then the detective's like, you're framed, you might as well fess up, da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, remember when you told me you were in the concrete business, or you're in concrete? And then the tagline is, that could be truer than you think, meaning that, when the other criminals find out that he had been murdering without getting permission, other hitmen from other crime families, that there would be a mark out on him. And so they wouldn't even really technically need to arrest this guy or imprison him. Because he's dead once he goes back on the streets anyway, and probably be in concrete. So it's a cool story. Again, I ask, if you have recommendations for future stories, let me know. And then too, if you've followed this video series, which again, I'll have a link for the playlist below. There's 6 now. Let me know what was your favorite story and what was your favorite art so far. And if the two actually coincide, or was it like one of the stories you thought was better, but you like the art somewhere else. And then here's the Steranko piece, and it's actually printed a little bit small in the book, but it's actually a very, very cool art, piece of art. So with the camera, you won't really notice that. We'll take it in real quick first, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So this is the piece. I have no idea why they printed it so small. It's about 3 inches by 4 inches in the book. And Steranko usually works really, really big from what I know. So you got that beautiful building suggestion in the behind Batman, and then that nice black shadow kind of creeping over it. And then the way that he frames his head in here is very, very cool. It's a nice, nice effect. This is great. This is really, really solid. This looks super cool. This is neat. Very stylish cape, but it's such a graphic piece. The white cape over here, the black cape over here. It's very, very cool. The black bats, the white bats. This is nice, man. Really, really beautiful piece. This is all super cool. Man, that's so awesome. All right, so that's the video. You have a great day. Patrons, I will be doing more of the indestructible drawing videos today. So you will get not only a video of the stuff that I've been working on, but the next installment of the lesson. So, all right, I'll talk to you all later. Smash the like and have a great day. Bye.